our series of the planets through the houses in the natal chart as they relate to love, we are on to Mercury. This is our quick little planet. It orbits around the sun in about 88 days. It's very fast. When we think of it in astrology, it's the planet that holds space for the mental realm. It's communication. It's how you think. It will show us if you're a quick thinker, if you're a slow thinker, if you're an extroverted thinker, or if you're an introverted thinker. Are you someone who needs to talk about things to get to a place of understanding, or do you need to sit and be introspective and think through things and reflect? Okay. In your relationship, communication, it's not maybe that sexy for some people. I think it's very sexy, but for some people, it's not that exciting to look at the Mercury contacts. It's very important. In a long-term relationship, you've got to be able to talk to this person. You've got to be able to understand this person, have good communication where there's a flow there. Even that unspoken communication that could come with body language, that would be like nice Mercury-Mars contacts, and Moon also. There are different ways that people's Mercuries are communicated. Some of us are intuitive communicators. We can communicate or we receive things through our emotions. Some of us do it straight through our logic. Some of us do it through our bodies. So let's go ahead and look at where that Mercury falls, how that's going to affect your partner and yourself, your communication style, your sort of fantasy role-playing style when it comes to sexuality, and also just in general, how you think, how you operate when it comes to the world of ideas. Right, when you've got your Mercury or your partner has their Mercury, either of you have your Mercuries in your first house. When I say yours, I mean you have yours in your first house, your partner has theirs in their first house in their birth chart. This gives a quickness to Mercury and it gives a directness. So this means that their communication style tends to be a little bit more direct, a little bit more Aries-like. Their communication style also is fast. And so I have this and I have a tendency to talk quickly. I've done it since I was a little kid and write quickly. Just kind of do everything fast and sloppy because it's all in my head in a formed thing, and I have to take the trouble of getting it out of me so that another person can understand what I'm thinking, and that can be aggravating at times. But anyway, so someone whose Mercury's in the first house, communication, thinking, ideas, these are important to them. The first house is the house of your personality. So this is going to be someone who is characterized by, if they're not smart, then they're at least someone who's a good communicator. They enjoy communicating or they're talkative. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're an extrovert though. You can be an introvert and have a first house Mercury. Let's say you have a Mercury and Cancer in the first house. And you really love reading, you love learning, you love seeking. But you're not about extroverting that. You're about introverting and reflecting on things. So you've got to look at you've got to look at the zodiac sign that Mercury's in. But first house, for the most part, is going to be someone who, in their communication style, is quite direct. They can even be direct to the point of not meaning to hurt feelings, but they just say what they think. And at times they can, they don't beat around the bush. Okay, so there can be a little fight to their words or a little bite to their words. First house Mercury's many times enjoy a good row, good argument, or good debate, because this is like an Aries Mercury. And there is a bit of, they do say what, you've got to look at the zodiac sign. So I'll give you an example. So I've got Virgo on my Mercury. My Mercury is in Virgo in the first house. So analytical, I am critical, I criticize things like in my head. I don't mean that, it's not like I'm negative, but if I see a house let's say I see a Victorian home, I will recognize if the architecture has been put together incorrectly. It's noticing details when they're out of place. And I will say something. And when I was married, my husband and myself, we would go for drives just to look at houses when we lived in the South, because there's just beautiful big houses. And I'd be like, oh, that's really great. But those are not those columns, those are Doric columns. And they should be, Ionic columns or whatever. I would make some stupid little remark. And in my head, it's not meant to be a criticism, not meant to be something personal. It's just an observation. Okay. So that's a Virgo first house, Virgo Mercury. Let's use Cancer. The Cancer first house Mercury would come out. It's going to be introverted probably. It's going to be, if they do say something, it can be quite passive aggressive. If they're mad or hurt, they'll either withdraw and just pull their thoughts back completely and keep to themselves, or they'll say something in a way that's kind of sarcastic and a little bit cutting, a little bit biting, that's that Cancer, the passive aggressive thing that can sometimes happen when you mix Cancer and Mars and Aries and you get those all mushed together. So, all right, on to the second house. Second house, Mercury. All right, second house, Mercury, this is the Taurus house. So I immediately think of, when you think of the fixed signs, they tend to have a little bit of a know-it-all thing happening with them. Or at least, I don't mean to offend. I have lots of fixed signs in my chart. So I'm the first, my son's in the second house, you know. But there is this sort of, they figured it out, and that's the way it should be. Okay, and so they do have sort of, they can be a little stubborn in their ideas. And since it's Mercury, you know, there's this idea that Mercury's quite, it's your mind and your voice. And in Taurus, it can be kind of opinionated. It kind of knows what it thinks, knows what it wants, and it asks for it. Remember, this is the house, well, when we're talking about love, we're talking about Mercury relative to sexuality, lovemaking. So it's like asking for what you want. Typically, a Taurus wouldn't have a problem really sort of asking for what they want. All the fixed signs can have a little touch of a bossiness to them. You know, they can just, they just know what they want, and they ask for it. And so you could experience that with a Mercury in the second house. Also, Mercury in the second house really values honesty, consistency, doing what you say you're going to do. All right. You know, of course, this is all other things withstanding. Mercury in the second house does have, Mercury really in any of the earthy signs, they're trying to kind of figure things out so they make practical sense, okay, in the real world. So a Taurus, or not Taurus rather, Mercury in the second house wants things to be, say what you think, say what you mean, don't beat around the bush. They like concrete communication. Tell them what you want. This is like the guy that his girlfriend's having a little hissy fit and he has no idea what he did wrong. He doesn't know what to do to fix it. And he's just like, tell me what you want me to do because I'm confused right now. Okay, that would be kind of a second house Mercury. It's just very much practical. It's going to tell you what it wants, so it would assume you do the same. All the fixed signs do that. All the fixed signs sort of assume, well, this is how it is for me, so it should be like that for everybody else, you know? So you can get that a little bit with this Mercury in the second house. Also, the second house is our house of value, of possessions and personal values and the things that we hold to be of worth that we would keep close to us. So this would suggest they really would value their opinions. They would value their own opinions. And, you know, if they had a Mercury in an air sign, there might be somebody who might be really open to discussing something, kind of arguing and having a little debate. But ultimately, in the end, there definitely is this standing firm in their positions, standing firm in their commitments. If they say they're going to do something, if they say they're committed to you, then they're going to hold fast to that unless that Mercury is otherwise afflicted. Overall, it's a nice placement, I would say, for getting what you're being told you're going to get, kind of a thing. Mercury in the third house. This is Mercury's natural placement, third and sixth houses. So this is the Gemini house. If your Mercury is in the or third house, or your partner's Mercury is in their third house, this is someone who values communication, and they're good at it. Typically, this is someone who has a little bit of a silver tongue. I know someone who has a Capricorn Mercury in this third house, and he's very charming. And you wouldn't typically think with a Capricorn Mercury, you'd think that would be a little more staid, a little more reserved, and kind of serious and down to business. But this person has the ability to kind of get what he wants with his words. He's very confident that he can charm you and kind of bring you to his side of the fence if he needs to. So it's kind of combining that Capricorn leadership, confidence, and getting something done, and then this sort of flirtatious Mercury third house thing, a Gemini thing. So now this person, if this is your partner, this person needs a lot of conversation or mental stimulation or movement. There's this idea of like trying new things, thinking about new things, social events, you know, this element of their mind has to be constantly stimulated or they're going to get bored. So you don't want to bore a Mercury in the third house. This Capricorn Mercury, this guy, he's someone who definitely, it's like he wants the traditional thing. He's got a pretty conservative mindset, but he also gets bored really easily. So that's kind of how this would play out. If you've got a Mercury that's, say, I don't know, let's say you've got an Aries. Let's say you're going to Aries Mercury, okay? So something that's more fiery. In the third house, you're definitely going to be someone who is talkative and probably quite direct with your communication. You just go for what it is, exactly what you want. You ask for exactly what you want in your relationships, and can get bored if someone's talking too slowly for you. You probably would be like checking out. and if you're not getting to the point, and they want to talk, Aries, Mercury's want to be the ones talking, so they'll interrupt you a lot because they want to be talking. So there's that. Mercury in the fourth house. Fourth house is that house of home. It's the house of the moon, which is the heart and the intuition. Someone whose Mercury is there is probably someone who's sensitive with their communication. They're going to take into account your feelings when they're talking with you. They can be overly sensitive, depending on if that Mercury is being aspected, perhaps by Saturn even. I can see someone take things sort of the wrong way, or there'd be a level of seriousness to the way that they communicate. Now, or restriction actually, where they hold back their thoughts. Fourth house also, it's kind of a head-heart connection with this placement. And when it comes to the romantic relationship, there is that need to be understood on a deeper emotional level. And sort of like there was an article out a little while ago about relationships that were successful were ones where when the partner reached out to you, for example, they used an example where this partner loved bird watching and their spouse wasn't really into bird watching, but when the partner was watching birds this one day, the partner, says to the spouse, "Oh, look, I see a blue-tailed ring jay," or whatever. I don't know, I'm making that up. And the partner, the spouse, in a healthy relationship, that those bids for affection and for connection, the partner that's not that interested would come and say, "Oh, that's really cool. What did you think of it?" Or, it would start conversation, would draw in the partner to show that they care. And that's that respecting that need for connection. So someone whose Mercury is in the fourth house is going to have when they communicate with their partner, they're really going to need to be heard and feel like their partner cares about what they're saying, and that the partner is coming closer to them. Cancer, fourth house, this is about closeness, connection, belonging. So they'll need to feel that sense that you're hearing them and you're caring about what it is that they're sharing with you. Mercury in the fifth house. Now, the fifth house is our house of play. It is the house of lovers. There is a child. Leo is the divine child, and this is the Leo house. So there is this element of the fifth house having a lightheartedness to it, okay, not taking things too seriously. So if your partner's Mercury falls into this house, this tells you their communication style is one where they probably appreciate jokes and witty banter and just enjoying, poking at each other and having fun, teasing, playing. And their lovemaking, that style will also, they won't have a problem with laughter and talking and joking and making fun of things, before and after lovemaking. So if you're someone who's more serious and likes more of a, passionate love affair, then this might not be the best match for you, because there is a playfulness with the way they communicate. This is also the house of the gambler, so they're the type that they can say things sometimes that might be, "Wow, you just said that," they'll take a risk with the way that they communicate. And also this is our Leo house, so it needs to be able to express how it feels. So there's no holding back, really. They let you know how they feel. They can be a little bit bossy, or at least, they have to be heard. If they have to say what it is they have to say, they can't hold it in. This is definitely not a placement of someone who's okay with just keeping their thoughts to themselves. They have to be able to communicate to you what they're thinking. Again, this is a very fun, playful mind that if you've got someone with a fifth house Mercury. If things get too serious or too depressing, it's a real turnoff for them. So, you got to take everything into account. You've got to look at the zodiac sign that Mercury's in and look at the aspects being made to it, look at the rest of the chart. But overall, there's going to be a sense of almost a twinkle in the eye with this person, with the way that they communicate, that's fun and playful and jovial in a sense. It's like the sunshine. Mercury in the sixth house. Now, the sixth house is at Virgo. This is the Virgo house. This is traditionally a Mercury house, mercurial. The Virgo house, so the sixth house has to do with our daily duties, has to do with self-sacrifice, with chores, taking care of business, those daily habits and things that need to be taken care of so that it's the homework house, so that we can then go have fun. So when you're thinking about someone who's got their Mercury in the sixth house, many times this mind will be focused on analysis, just like how I have a Virgo Mercury, it's the same idea. They'll enjoy analyzing something from the privacy of their own space. It's a little bit more of an introverted Mercury. This Mercury also will appreciate doing what you say you're going to do, showing up for people with your words. And this can be the type of love language where they need to not only hear the words that that you love them, but that you, through the things you do or through the things they do for you, they're showing you through their service that they love you. They're showing you that they're devoted to you, and they're even their worry, when they worry about you, because this can be a placement for a worrier. They're anxious, they're worrying about you. That's a way of them showing you that they love you, that they care about you, that they care about your well-being. So when it comes to sexuality, Mercury here can be a little bit more reserved. It needs a partner to sort of help coax it out of its shell and let it know that it's okay to be a little bit dirty or naughty with the words, with communication, with fantasies. There could definitely be some fantasies of, because this is sort of a house of the servant and the master, so there could be a little desire to be dominated, fantasies about being dominated when someone has their Mercury in the 6th house, or like a Virgo Mercury, the same kind of thing. They like power plays. That would be really fun for the 6th house Mercury. They just might not know it, or they might know it. So have a conversation with them and find out. Mercury in the 7th house. Now, 7th house is our house of partnership. This is the Libra house. Someone whose Mercury is here, they are, the way that they mentally think, they appreciate having conversation with someone, okay? The way that their partner thinks and feels about them is important for a 7th house Mercury. In their relationship, they need to feel like their partner is able to reflect them, that their partner understands them, that there's fairness and honesty, that there's diplomacy. A Mercury in the 7th house is going to be someone who's quite diplomatic with their words. They say things in a way that's kind and decent, typically. They will appreciate, again, like I said, in relationship, they need to have this repartee and this tete-a-tete, this back and forth with their partner, because this is an air house. So now things can happen with the 7th house. Sometimes the Mercury person can let their own needs go for the partner, or the partnership itself. They can be more focused on what the partner is thinking about them or how the partnership is going, rather than maybe focused on working on themselves, or focused on, letting themselves go while they're focused on the partner or the partnership. So that can be obviously a little bit unhealthy. Ultimately, I think the best expression of the 7th house Mercury is just someone who is kind and decent and gentle with their words, takes other people's feelings into consideration, and desires harmony with communication. Now, remember, this is also an air house, so this is someone who does need mental stimulation. It's different than Gemini, it's different than Aquarius. Libra is more about the social contracts we have with one another and that communication, okay? So they need to know, and they need to be told that they're loved, and there'll be someone who tells you how they feel about you. They will be, open verbally with their feelings and their affections. So they need that in return. And as far as sex goes and, sort of their fantasies, I would say this is one where Libra makes me think of like the knight in shining armor a little bit. Nah, it's more Pisces Virgo, but it's like they do have this idea of this sort of elevated version of romance and love, one that's sort of beautiful and ethereal in a sense, very much in the head. They're very much in love with the idea of love. So play to that, be as romantic as you want to be. You could probably be fairly, not cheesy, but you could be fairly romantic, and this Mercury would be pretty stoked about that. Stories are great. Books and stories, lovely erotic stories would be something this partner would probably enjoy sharing with their partner. Mercury in the 8th house. If this is you or your partner, Mercury in the 8th house, these people have a desire to uncover. Okay, so they're very good question askers. They many times know things before, well, hi puppy. They know things before other people know them, on purpose or not. It can just be their intuition. They can be a little bit, not paranoid. They can be paranoid if it's poorly afflicted in the birth chart, but they can have like a suspicion, almost like they just sort of are waiting for the other shoe to drop sometimes. That's a lower functioning version, but they really want the deep bonded connection with their partner. They want to feel like they are an important part of their partner's life, that they know everything about their partner. They want that intimate knowledge of their partner. Okay, combine Scorpio's desire to possess and to hold dear and hold sacred with Mercury, the mind. And so they want to have conversations with their partner that are very deep and meaningful. They want to, this is a natural placement for someone who's like a psychotherapist or someone who is a investigator of some kind, someone who's able to, solve mysteries. And so just apply that kind of personality type to a relationship. You've got to be careful, of course, if this is your Mercury, that you don't read into things or get worried about things before you know for sure, what's going on. Like, jealousy and things like this can pop up when you have Mercury in the 8th house. It's that fear of losing that person that you hold dear. So, but this is definitely, again, like the 2nd house. If this person is committed to you, if they have told you something, they're telling the truth more than likely. They're not. See, Scorpio is the sign of extremes, so it's all or nothing. And so if they're sharing something with you, that means they consider you someone worthy of being shared with, and they don't take that lightly. So you shouldn't either. Mercury in the 9th house. 9th house is our house of wisdom, and it's the Sagittarius house. Someone whose Mercury is here, there is an element of enjoying telling a story together, laughing together. There's a jovial spirit that comes with the 9th house. There's also this coaching and mentoring thing with the 9th house. So there's a good chance if you have your Mercury in the 9th house, you're a natural teacher. You're someone who, if you don't just simply enjoy learning, you're going to at least enjoy learning, if not also teaching the things that you've learned. More than likely, you really enjoy sharing things you've learned. There's a bit of an opinion, it's interesting because it's like a Sagittarius Mercury as well. There is an opinionated nature to Sagittarius, but it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be like a know-it-all. It's just they have their thoughts and they're very genuine and authentic about sharing that with you. Like, well, I think this, so do. There's a naturalness and there's can be a real openness with Sagittarius. Like sometimes they can TMI you. Sagittarius Mercuries or someone whose Mercury is in that Sagittarius house. What I love about Mercury and Sagittarius is because they're so open with their communication, they tell you where they're at. They let you know if they're having feelings for you, if they're not, if they need space, if they don't, if they want you closer. They just sort of tell you. There's no pretense to it. So in a romantic relationship, that can be very helpful. Again, of course, look at the zodiac sign on that Mercury is placed in. You've got to blend the two because 9th house, this is a cadent house. And when we're talking about Sagittarius, it's a mutable sign. So it's a softer, more flexible, bendable zodiac sign. So if you've got someone who has a Taurus Mercury in the 9th house, they're probably going to be really direct with you about, I want to go make love right now. So let's do this. You got to blend kind of the sensual, hedonistic nature of Taurus with kind of that straightforward, open, of course you'll say yes thing that happens with Sagittarius or with that 9th house. Very growth oriented. Also, this is optimistic placement they're optimistic. So that Taurus would just be like, well, of course you're going to come and make love with me. If it was let's say, I don't know, like a Virgo, then that helps make that Virgo Mercury a little bit less critical or less anxious or pessimistic. Could help make it a little bit more about just straight up learning and sharing things they've learned in a very analytical and detailed way. So, anyway, let me know what you think. I'm curious about your 9th house. All right, on to the 10th house. All right, Mercury in the 10th house. This Mercury placement when it comes to love and romance, remember Mercury's learning things, Mercury's technique. 10th house is achievement and accomplishment. So this is somebody many times, they like to think of themselves as a good lover or they've kind of figured it out. And whether it's through technique that they use, whether it's through the things that they've read, they'll try and be well studied and well read on the art of lovemaking, which sometimes kind of like they miss the point a bit, like so focused on the technique in the moment that they're not sort of in the moment. Now that can happen with a Mercury in the 10th house. Not always. You got to look at the rest of the chart, of course. But if you got someone with Mercury in the 10th house with some strong Saturn applying to that Mercury, you can almost bet that there's a restriction. There's a quality to the personality where they're afraid of doing it wrong. And so they overcompensate by learning techniques and then like applying those techniques. But sometimes if they're low functioning and they haven't really learned about how to use that 10th house Mercury, they're applying the techniques without really applying the heart that goes with it, behind it. So there can be a little detached thing happening. Now, of course, this is, as I said, gotta look at the zodiac sign, look at the Mercury in general, the aspects being made to it. Anytime with the 10th house, anytime we've got the 10th house and our love lives playing with each other, there can be issues of being with somebody because of the status they can bring to your life, or the, if this is a trophy partner in a sense, or like this was a trophy, when a man goes to a safari to go shoot the zebra down, that was his trophy. So sometimes this can be a placement where that Mercury is looking for those trophies to win, and they can be detached from the emotional connection. It's more kind of, what can this person do for me relative to my status or my job, or this could be like the placement of someone who's a gold digger kind of a placement, Not saying if you have Mercury in 10th house, you're a gold digger, but there is an element of, you've got to be attracted. Your partner has to sort of have they've got to have some accomplishment behind them. You have to feel like this is a successful person, feel like this is an accomplished person who's achieved things. That will be really a turn on for you, rather than a partner who is a slob and doesn't have a job, lives off of unemployment. Mercury in the 11th house. Now, 11th house is the Aquarius house. It is a house that has to do with also the fringe and the freak flag and friendships and everyone having their own individual way of being. So you put your Mercury here, and it gives someone's mental style a little bit of an eccentricity to it. It gives it a little bit of a, sometimes with Aquarius, they like to push the envelope a little, push the boundaries. So you could have someone, let's say you've got a Mercury in an earth sign, like you've got a Mercury in Capricorn. Or let's say, maybe one I haven't done yet, let's say Mercury in Leo, okay? Mercury in Leo, which is the opposite of Aquarius, which is the opposite house, the 5th house, opposite of this 11th house. Mercury in Leo really likes to be heard, needs to be able to speak their voice. It's like the roar of the lion. 11th house would be, they need to have other people hear them. So this could be someone who on social media, I have a good friend that I love, Danny, who he always teases himself. He posts a lot of selfies, but it's like this joke. It's like an inside joke with himself, and everyone gets it. And so it just is even more endearing. And he's Aquarius. And so that is an example of how Aquarius and Leo would mix. It would be like showing off, but doing it in a way where everyone just makes you even more endearing. Okay. So if your partner has this, then Mercury in the 11th house needs a lot of freedom. They need to have freedom to think what they think, to believe what they believe, to try different things mentally with their head, have different types of social relationships, different interactions with different people, and they need to feel free, and they will give that to their partner. If they feel like their partner is chaining them down, it's interesting because I know a lot of Aquarius men they're fixed sign, and they're actually, when they're in committed marriages, they're quite loyal. They have a hard time. They're going to stay in that marriage, but they struggle with balancing their natural sociability with people of the opposite sex or of the gender that they're attracted to, and their desire to be committed to their partner. And they feel like they're betraying their partner. So if they have a partner that understands how they operate and trusts them, then it works very nicely. If the partner knows, it's not that they're wanting to cheat on them, it's just that they enjoy the company of a lot of different people. So that's Mercury in the 11th house. Finally, Mercury in the 12th house. I have a daughter who has this, so I really know this one well. Mercury in the 12th house, they sometimes have a hard time expressing how they feel. They're really good at writing you notes. They're very good at getting you a gift that's something very sweet that they've sort of been thinking about for a while, and then they'll go purchase it for you. They're very compassionate. They have tender, mentally, the way that their minds work, they're comfortable thinking about and communicating in a way. Like if you're hurting, they want to talk to you. They want to listen to you and tell me what's going on. I want to hear, oh, geez, that was horrible that person did that, or I can understand why you're feeling so sad. Well, it'll be okay. They really want to have that open line of communication with their partner, where their partner knows that if they need anything, that they're there for them to listen, and more than give advice, just they're really good at listening and consoling you. And because this Mercury tends to be kind of a shy, introverted placement for Mercury, they sometimes will have things happen, and in the moment they get caught up in their words and they don't know what to say, and then later they kind of or they'll need time to think about something. Like you can't, if you come to someone who has this in their birth chart and you just expect them to give a quick snap reaction to your question or whatever, they get flustered and they're, like, wow, I don't know, they don't like to be rushed in that way, because it's in their subconscious house. To access their Mercury, it's hidden in there. Now, with this also comes a great imagination. 12th house is very imaginative, and they like games, fantasy play. They like to pretend. They like to pretend that they're someone else, or like, a character or a role. They enjoy music, and they enjoy dancing, and these are all Neptunian types of things, quite romantic, and the arts and painting and whatnot. So talk about your partner with these things. Mercury and 12th house would definitely be music. Neptune to Mercury. Anyone who has Neptune to Mercury in their chart really likes music or poetry or words that are beautiful, or these types of things. So write them a poem. Let them write you a poem. Write them a letter. Let them write you a letter. Give them time to think through things. Don't pressure them. All right, and that's it for Mercury. So if you would like to have a birth chart reading or have a relationship reading done after your birth chart, we always do the birth chart first. Or if you would like a forecast for 2016, or if you're watching this in the future, give me a message here on YouTube, or even better, just click on that little eye that's on the video. It will take you to my website, and you can see my schedule and book a reading there. So thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, or if there's a video you'd like to see, let me know. I'm always looking for new things to talk about for you, whatever you're wanting to learn about. I'm here at your disposal. Okay, have a good one. Bye.